Yo, what's good, guys? We're back. We're going to be doing another UFC Fight Night video this week. It's going to be a prediction video for UFC Fight Night, Johnny Walker versus Jamahal Hill. It's going to be taking place at Las Vegas in the Apex again. And originally, this wasn't supposed to be the main event. It was going to be Rafael dos Anjos taking on Rafael Fiziev. But unfortunately, Fiziev had some visa issues, so that fight got delayed a couple weeks. And I think it's going to go down March 4th on the pay-per-view. So we're still going to get to see that fight, but it's not going to be 5 rounds. It's not going to be this Saturday night. Instead, the main event is going to be Johnny Walker versus Jamahal Hill. And, you know, the last time Johnny Walker, was in a main event, I mean, that was a snoozer. I don't know how many people were clamoring for him to get another main event spot. But hopefully this one with two explosive guys, I think everyone said the same thing in the Thiago fight, but hopefully this fight, the fight doesn't go all 5 rounds. There's a finish and it's more exciting. Two guys that one time, you know, Johnny Walker was the big-time prospect. Now Jamahal Hill seems like the more big-time prospect coming off that big knockout win in his last fight. But besides that, guys, just make sure to support the video. You know, hit the like button down below. Put a comment what you think about my predictions and who you're betting on, things like that. Sorry for putting out the video late this week. I got a little bit busy last week, so unfortunately wasn't able to get the video out as early as I usually do. But we'll try to get it out earlier next week. And just like always, if you want to get additional content, check out the Patreon. I'm going to have some Bellator content, some Eagle FC content, some content for LFA. But this week we got Bellator 274 going down. We got the PFL Challenger Series. We got Eagle FC 46. So quite a bit going on outside of the UFC if you want to go check that out. We've been doing really well this year. We're at 25% ROI so far through the first month and a half of the year, which is really good for me, and hopefully we can continue doing that. Hopefully we can continue making you guys money, putting out some good content over there on the Patreon. So appreciate everyone that's already there, and anyone that wants to jump on there and check it out, definitely urge you to do that at patreon.com/MAPredictionGuru. But let's get into this video. Let's get into the first matchup. We got Jesse Strader. He's going to be taking on Chad Anheliger. Jesse Strader, he's the fighter with UFC experience. He came in, he fought Montel Jackson in his first fight, and pretty predictably, you know, he got knocked out in the first round. Chad Anheliger, he's a guy that is making his UFC debut. He got an upset win on the Contender Series, and he's actually riding a 9-fight winning streak. For Chad Anheliger, he has a pretty cool story because he started his career 2-5. Now he's obviously 11-5, so very valiant guy. He has no quit in him, and even when he was down and out, he turned it around and is now in the UFC. So big props to the guy, win, lose, or draw here. And he has some decent wins. He took out Brady Hiestand, who made it to the Ultimate Fighter finale and did well against the winner of the Ultimate Fighter. I'm blanking on his name right now for some reason, but he did well in that fight. And outside of that, you know, Anheliger doesn't have a lot of good wins, but he also beat Marin Gaffarov in the Contender Series, who is 17-3. So those 2 wins are probably the best wins that he has. Jesse Strader, he, you know, also does not really look like, you know, he's had the highest level wins. He only has 7 fights in his career, so he's pretty inexperienced overall. But he has been in there with guys like Montel Jackson. He was in there with John Castaneda. So, you know, he was in there with a couple good guys, but he hasn't been able to get the win over them. But Jesse Strader, he's fun to watch. I mean, he likes to brawl. He has fast hands. He has power. And you'll get in the pocket. He likes to go body head. He'll go throw long combinations. Pretty explosive. He has power, and he could definitely put guys' lights out. I mean, super aggressive. He likes to exchange big hooks, and he'll close the gap and really put a lot of power on the combos, like I said. And his jab is all right, and, you know, it looks like he's improving, trying to jab or double jab his way into range for the straight or the overhand right. Isn't really a big kicker, but in his last fight, he was trying to throw a lot of leg kicks. I feel like he was doing that to try to, you know, slow down Jackson, who's really kind of super long and fast. But his body kicks are all right as well. Defensively, he doesn't really have good defense. He does feint a lot. He'll switch stances, but he holds his hands low and wings a lot of big punches. He'll try to close the distance with his chin right in the air. He can duck his head a lot, so susceptible to knees and uppercuts. And I've seen him get clipped with the overhands, 1-2s. He gets a little bit tired as the fights go on, and he becomes more hittable. Plays a kill or be killed game. Sometimes he will level change, get some takedowns. The body shots do help him kind of disguise the level changes, but not really the greatest with his top control. He more uses the takedowns to mix it up, and his submission defense, to me, doesn't really look like it's the best. I don't think he has the highest level jiu-jitsu. But he has finished 4 of his 5 wins. He's been knocked out in the first round in his 2 losses. So, like you said, kind of a killer be killed style. 1-0 in decisions, and cardio, like I said, does not look the best. But Chad Anheliger, the more technical guy, he likes to fight off the counter mostly, and he's going to get opportunities to counter in this fight definitely. And he does like to pressure, and you'll fake feint and then try to get guys to, let their shots go, and you'll pot shot guys from the outside, kind of keep them at bay, and then just get him frustrated and then get his counter game going. He has good leg kicks. He'll throw some big calf kicks. The leg kicks do add up as the fights go on. And he has good 1-2s. He'll slip and rip pretty effectively with the check hook or the straight right hand. Pretty hard to deal with that range because he does have sharp counters. He picks his shots well. He stays sharp. And if you play that range game with Anheliger, he will get his rhythm and really start to piece you up with the jab, with the lead hand, with the rear hand counters, with his really nice leg kicks. I would look to try to mix in some uppercuts if I was Anheliger in this fight. And he needs to sit down on the right hand early and get Strader's respect with some big counters. Anheliger, he has a lot of experience. He's been pro for over 10 years. Good cardio. He has the experience in terms of having longer fights in comparison to Strader as well. He has 2 third-round finishes in his last 3 wins. And, he does get stronger as the fight goes on. So that is going to be an incentive in it to push the pace and try to get the fight in the later rounds in this fight for him. He does have some issues with grapplers, but, in his last fight, I would say his grappling looked pretty solid. He was able to deny a lot of the takedown attempts of Gaffarov, work back up to his feet, was never really in that big a danger. But early in his career, he did get submitted 5 times, and he hasn't been submitted since. So he's really improved that area. He was able to get 3 guillotine finishes in a row at one point. They were against low-level opponents, but obviously after being submitted 5 times in your first 7 fights, getting a sub over anyone is a positive. But his last fight, he proved a lot because he was able to go in there and beat that style that he's always had issues with which is a grappler, and he beat Marin Gaffarov. He did get taken down, but he was able to sweep, get on top, and eventually he got Gaffarov tired and beat him down the stretch. He was able to drop him with a knee, and I think those knees are something that could potentially be effective against Strader. Strader was also clipped a lot off the clinch breaks against Montel Jackson, so that's something that I would try to do is catch him off those breaks. And then in this fight, I think Anheliger is the superior fighter. Strader is more dangerous, and he's more explosive. He's bigger, and he's going to have the chance to get the knockout early, in my opinion. But Anheliger is more skilled. I think he could be in some danger early. Strader's a long reach. He's going to be trying to bomb. Definitely has a chance to get the knockout, but he also has the potential to get put out himself. And I think Strader may try to wrestle a little bit, but even if he can get a takedown or 2, I don't really see him controlling on top. I don't really think as this fight goes on that's going to be a viable option with this cardio either. And I think Anheliger, just with the superior range striking skills, eventually is going to start to be able to get his pressure game going, land some counters, get his respect, and then start chopping at the leg, get it more in close quarters, and be able to just be a little bit superior. I think his cardio is going to play a big factor as well. So I'm going to go with Anheliger. Late second round, third round finish here. The line is pretty wild, though. I mean, I would never bet Anheliger as an almost 3-1 favorite. So do think that Strader has a little bit of value there, but the pick for me is going to be Anheliger via second or third round finish. And in this next fight, we got a women's fight at the strawweight division with Diana Belbita taking on Gloria de Paula. This should be a fun fight. I mean, both these girls are not the highest level, but they come to scrap, and they definitely are finishers for girls of that size. Most of those girls don't get a lot of finishes, but both of them do. So Diana Belbita, coming off her first win in the UFC, she was able to get the win over Hannah Goldie. De Paula, she's 0-2 so far in the UFC. Belbita lost her first 2 UFC fights as well, though. So Baubita, she had a tough debut against Molly McCann, then had a bad loss against Lieta Jojua. Her last fight was a must win, and she showed up and she got a dud against Hannah Goldie. It was a pretty good performance, but Goldie's a fighter who I don't really feel is the best fighter. She was coming off a long layoff, so don't really rate that as the best win, but Baubita's young, so having a good performance like that should boost her confidence. For Gloria de Paula, she's had some tough matchups. Her first fight in the UFC, she was the favorite, but she faced a girl that had a ton of experience, was a long-time veteran, was a former champion in other organizations, and came up short against Jin Yu Frey. She was able to win one round, but lost 29-28 on a decision. And then she had a fight that was a little bit of a weird ending, where she got caught with the head kick, trying to stand back up against Shine Vlismas, who's another decent fighter here in the UFC. And I feel like that was a more low percentage outcome, but De Paula was still knocked out, so that could not help her durability or even her confidence coming into this fight. But both these girls are fairly inexperienced. De Paula, she only has 9 fights and been very much up and down. She's 5-4. She's not really beaten any fighters worthy of writing home about, but she's been in there with some good fighters. She fought Ariane Carilosi, and she's fought some decent girls in the UFC. Baubita, she's 14-6. A lot of Baubita's fights are not against good opponents at all. Baubita has defeated 9 fighters that have 0 wins at the time that she fought them. And she also has a win over another girl that was 1-2. So 10 of her 14 wins, are not very high-level wins. But Hannah Goldie, I would say, is the best win of Baubita's career, even though Goldie was just 5-1. Baubita did fight Ariane Lipsky at KSW. That was a big fight for her. She had a chance to win a title, and she lost that fight. She got dropped and then lost via first-round submission. And Baubita, she got submitted as well by Iana Razavasarian, who's a Bellator vet. And with this fight, I think Baubita is a girl that likes to pressure. She's very pretty durable, it looks like, on the feet, and she's a mauler. She wants to get in that inside range, hit elbows, hit knees. She seems like she likes to wrestle a little bit. We'll get on top, but I would definitely avoid the grappling in this fight. Baubita, she has a tendency to take girls down and get caught in submissions from their full guards, like R bars, and that's something that Gloria de Paula is really good at, catching R bars. So personally, I think that's a danger zone for her, a super danger zone. I think that if she does go to the ground with Gloria de Paula, she's going to be in some big trouble and potentially get submitted there. For the striking, it's a contrast because, like I said, Baubita likes to get on the inside and really, go to war there and try to make it a dirty fight. Whereas Gloria de Paula, she's more of a girl that likes to stay on the outside, use her Muay Thai, and try to stay long with her straight punches, mix in some kicks, pressure, and try to keep it a little bit more of a range striking fight before she can either get taken down and work off her back with her submission game, or try to get the takedown herself. But one thing about De Paula is that she is good in the clinch. She has a really good Muay Thai clinch, and she will go to work. So I'm going to be curious to see who's going to be better there. But her takedown defense of the clinch is really bad, and she kind of got exposed so far in the UFC for just being able to get taken down and controlled off her back against Jin Yu Frey. They got taken down and made that mistake, tried to get back up, got knocked out against Cheyenne Vlismas. So Baubita, she needs to really have her submission defense on point if she wants to come in with that type of game plan. And I actually feel like this is kind of a tough stylistic matchup for Baubita, because I think De Paula on the feet is the more tactical striker. She has the distance control management. She's a little bit better defensively, and I think that she's going to be able to pop Baubita from the outside. And I think Baubita in the clinch is going to have to really deal with someone that's good there as well. I think she could be at a disadvantage there potentially also. I also feel as if it goes to the ground, De Paula could get the submission victory. So I think Gloria de Paula is going to come in here and probably get the win in this one. I do think that Baubita, being young, being really, really scrappy, I think she could get some win over some other girls. But skill-wise, I think that De Paula's on another level a little bit here in this fight. And I feel like a submission prop here for De Paula is decent value. And I also feel like her betting line is decent value to bet on. So I'm going to go with Gloria de Paula here in this fight. Okay, so in this next fight, we got a fight that's fairly tough to predict here with Chas Skelly. He's going to be taking on Mark Striegl. And it's a weird match in my opinion because both these fighters have not been very active. Chas Skelly, he's obviously an OG. He's a recognizable name. He's been in the UFC since 2014. had some really good moments, had some fun fights. He's 7-3-1 in the UFC, so his record is really good. Has the fastest submission finish in UFC featherweight history. He also had that record for the shortest turnaround between fights before Lupita Godinez just recently beat him there. And he's coming off a win, but that win was over 2 years ago at this point. And Chas Skelly, even before the win over Jordan Griffin, had started to accumulate a lot of injuries and had just not been able to stay healthy in recent years. And he had a knee surgery, he had a bad elbow injury which required Tommy John surgery, and he hurt himself in the lead up to the fight with Grant Dawson in February of 2020, and he didn't disclose the injury, I don't believe, but it was an upper body injury, and it must have been fairly bad because he called it a career-threatening injury. He was then able to go through a full camp, no issues, and he made it into the cage, but man, a freak situation where Jamal Lemmers couldn't make the walk, even though Skelly was literally standing in the cage waiting for him. He had back spasms in the warm-up, and that fight didn't end up going off either. So then that was an awful situation for Skelly, who literally was within minutes of fighting. And unfortunately for Skelly, he tried to turn around and fight again 8 months later against Mike Trizano, but suffered another injury, and he was forced to withdraw from that fight. So Skelly's 36 years old at this point. He's only fought one time in nearly 3.5 years, but he has a huge experience advantage over his opponent in terms of UFC level experience and is the favorite here in this fight. Mark Striegel, his UFC debut only lasted 51 seconds. He got finished against Said Nurmagomedov by knockout, and Said is a beast, but Striegel definitely needs to show more here to keep his job in the company. And Striegel has also had a long layoff due to injury, signed to fight Johnny Munoz, and that fight never took place, which was supposed to happen in April of 2021, and Striegel has not fought since then, and so this is his first fight in over a year. But before joining the UFC, Striegel had not fought in over a year also, so he has not been very active recently, but he's trained with the MMA lab for this fight, so he should be tuned up, ready to go, and it's a good camp versus camp battle with Skelly representing Sanford MMA on the other side. And Striegel, he hasn't had nearly the same level of opposition that Skelly has had. Striegel had a lot of fights in the Philippines, which is his home country, and he's a big deal there. He was able to win the Southeast Asian Games for the Combat Sambo. He won the gold medal in 2019, and he's a popular fighter in that region. Due to that, Striegel, he's faced a lot of easy opponents, so he could pick up those easy crowd-pleasing wins. And prior to joining the UFC, Striegel fought a guy who was 6-9, an 0-0 guy, 5-1, 31, 22, and 11. So Striegel just did not fight a ton of great fighters. He did have a chance to compete in one championship, and he went 2-1 in that promotion. He's beaten some okay guys, like he beat Kaikar of France, but obviously France is a flyweight, so Striegel had a huge advantage size-wise over him. Striegel's now fighting at featherweight here. And Mark Striegel, I mean, he's fast, he's explosive, and obviously he's a very good grappler. He has 11 first-round finishes, very big for the division as well. He used to fight at 135, and he was fucking huge. But he likes to pressure guys, eventually shooting on the legs or get the body lock, and very aggressive trying to get the fight to the mat. He almost shoots immediately. He doesn't really want to mess around on the feet. His takedowns are good, and when he gets on top, he's very aggressive. Good passing ability, likes to get to side control, get that scarf hold position or the crucifix and go to work from there. And he can finish fighters from that scarf hold position with submissions. But in this fight, that position does expose your back certain times. So against a guy like Chas Skelly, I would not really attempt to use that too much. But he does a good job forcing fighters to give their back. And he has good rear naked chokes. He's very aggressive taking the back. He'll try to jump on the back from standing. And he's pretty good at finishing the rear naked choke. He has 8 rear naked choke victories. So this is a battle of guys that do like to get that backpack on each other. And I've seen Striegel go for bad takedowns and pull fighters on top of him. He'll go for head and arm throws and just things that I don't think are very smart for MMA. So I feel like as he's getting up in the level of competition, the camp that he's working with needs to tell him, like, yo, man, you got to chill out with some of these techniques and try to be just a little bit more basic, a little bit more, going with what works. But Chas Skelly, he really needs to avoid having Skelly on his back at all times. Striegl did not look very good off of his back. I watched a fight with him against Reese McLaren, and he was able to dominate that fight for the first couple of rounds. And McLaren is a good grappler at black belt as well, but got reversed with a guillotine in the third round. He got back mounted. It was some big ground and pound, and eventually he got choked out with a rear naked choke. So Striegl also has to be careful about leaving his head in there to be guillotined. And Striegl has been submitted in 2 of his 3 losses. As far as stand-up goes, I mean, Striegl mainly just looks to move around and then explode in with the big overhand, a flying knee. His 1-2's all right. He'll look for the left hook. He doesn't really throw a lot of offense on the feet. His defense isn't the best. He holds his hands low, pretty hittable, flat-footed, and he is susceptible to leg kicks. He can get caught trying to close distance, but he's a guy that's very big, muscular, and it does slow him down, but he has power. I've seen him drop guys. I've seen him land some nice elbows. But as fights goes on, he does get tired, his defense gets worse, and he does become very vulnerable on the feet. He becomes less aggressive with his grappling as well, which obviously isn't a good sign when you want to get it to the ground. But he's been finished in the third round in 2 of his losses, but he is 4-0 in decisions. He hasn't really beaten any high-level opponents in long fights yet, but he does have power, like I said, and he's fairly durable. When he gets hurt, he usually can bail himself out by getting the takedown. His last fight was the first time that he got knocked out, which was against Said Nurmagomedov, who also knocked out Ricardo Ramos in the first round. He got Cody Stamann in the first round out of there. So, Striegl just got dropped trying to close the gap with the check hook, immediately tried to get on a single and got finished. But he's been finished in all 3 of his losses. His cardio is a little questionable. So some things about Striegl are question marks, but he obviously is a great grappler, a great athlete. He's the younger guy. He has fought more recently, and he also, in my opinion, probably has a little bit more time left, more juice left in the tank. He has less injuries, things like that. But Chas Skelly, he's an awkward fighter, but he's super aggressive. He has a really good submission game, pretty good wrestling, and he could scramble. He's not really the highest level wrestler. I don't really see him being able to take down Mark Striegl unless Striegl gets very tired. But when the fight gets to the mat, that's when it gets interesting because Skelly's a great scrambler. He'll attack for leg locks. He's good at catching front chokes and scrambles, and his back takes are really good. He can take the back in kind of weird ways. He's very tricky. And when he can take the back, he has great control there, good rear naked chokes, 10 submission wins. I've seen him in his last fight with Jordan Griffin where he ends up on bottom, somersaults his way out of the back mount, gets on top. So he'll go for some pretty fun things to watch as well. And, Skelly is going to shoot the takedown, so he's going to have to look to shoot and then create a scramble or try to shoot and reshoot. Because I don't really think he's going to be able to take down Striegl initially, but if he could shoot and then, create a scramble to get to the back or something, or make Striegl shoot in on him and try to create a scramble off that and get on top, that's where he's going to have his best chance to get the win. I don't know how well Striegel's defense is for leg locks either, so that's something that Skelly may look to do. Skelly's takedown defense is not really the best because he does kind of look to try to accept the takedown to create the scramble. And this fight, in my opinion, is going to come down to if Striegl can stay on top when he gets there, avoid getting caught in a submission. On the feet, Skelly's awkward, but I would say he's probably the slightly better striker. He isn't as fast or explosive. He doesn't have the same power, but he has good 3-2s. He has good 2-3s. He will block and return, and good hooks, good overhands, big uppercuts. He, will sometimes try to work some kicks, but, he doesn't really check low kicks. He's susceptible to getting kicked himself. Got clipped with a big uppercut against Jason Knight, got finished with ground and pound, and he does allow himself to be pressured because he likes to dart in and dart out, but sometimes it can get him hit with combos, it can get him backed up against the cage. He was able to win the first round against Bobby Moffitt by taking the back controlling, and he won a fun back and forth fight with Jordan Griffin. Skelly's fight with Bobby Moffitt did end up being a no contest because Skelly ended up getting kind of darsed, but he was defending properly and the ref thought he was out, stopped the match, so the premature stoppage, kind of warranted a no contest there. Skelly has had issues with cardio himself. He also has had issues with grapplers. He's lost to guys like Jason Knight, Darren Elkins. Both those guys are tough fighters to submit, have good top control, so made it a difficult matchup for Skelly. Skelly, he will get tired going for submissions, and if you could stuff him and keep him on his back, he will accept the bottom position eventually. And I just don't know how Skelly is going to look here after all the injuries, being so inactive. This fight's very tough to call. I think Skelly has the superior striking. I think he's more dangerous with the submission game, but Striegl is more explosive, bigger, stronger, the better wrestler. He's a good grappler in his own right, not an easy guy to submit. And I'm going to take Striegl here. I'm just not confident in how Skelly's going to come out here and look. Striegel's been training with the MMA lab for this camp. They've been doing well recently. Jared Cannonier just got a big win. Benson Henderson got a big win. Striegl, he's won a combat sambo gold medal, so he definitely has good submission defense. And I just think that Skelly's aging. He's had so many injuries. I just don't think if he can't rock Striegl on the feet and catch a submission or sweep it, submit, I just don't know if he can win that fight. I think Striegel's going to have top control. He's going to work his ground and pound, kind of be a little bit when he gets on top, just kind of accept that he's probably not going to finish the fight or do anything crazy. So just be smart, control the position, do enough to stay on top and win the fight. If Skelly was in his prime, I definitely would think he would win this fight, but I'm just going to go with Striegl here. I think that his line is a little bit of value as well because it's just two grapplers. I think Striegel's the better wrestler. If he can avoid the submissions, he's going to probably win the fight. And Chas Skelly's older, getting up there in age, and I feel like the injuries are catching up to him, everything like that. And I'm going to go with Mark Striegl. And up next here we got Stephanie Edgar taking on Jessica Rose Clark. And this fight, don't have too much interest in this fight from a betting perspective, but as far as a prediction goes, I feel like, Edgar is the bigger girl by a slight margin, but I don't think it's going to be a big factor. I think in the stand-up that Jessie Jess is going to have a big advantage. Edgar, she's a little bit stationary, plotty, a little bit stiff. She does have a pretty good straight right hand. It seems like she's getting a little bit better with the stand-up, but at 33 years old, I don't really see her taking a huge leap in how she's going to look on the feet. I think that Jessica Rose Clark is going to be the significantly better striker. She throws some decent kicks, power kicks. She'll throw some okay punch combinations. She's good in attacking in the close range with the clinch, with the knees, with the elbows. And Edgar, she's going to be trying to get this fight to the ground. She's a judo girl. She has good throws, obviously, and a pretty good double. She's fairly physical. When she can back you up against the cage, she can kind of control you there, eventually maybe get it to the ground. But she has cardio issues, and she also isn't really the greatest wrestler for MMA. She struggles to get a lot of takedowns against girls that have good freestyle wrestling skills. And you watched her fight with Tracy Cortez. She also is susceptible to being taken down with takedowns on the legs and being held down, things like that. So I feel like in this fight, I've heard Jessica Rose Clark talk too about the game plan, and I think she's going to try to keep it standing, which is smart. I don't really see Edgar being able to take her down or being able to control her in the clinch. I think that Jessie Jess is pretty strong in her own right, and I think Edgar's going to get a little bit tired trying to get the takedowns and getting kind of backed up and beat up on the feet. And I think eventually Jessie Jess kind of pull away and get more of a dominant decision win here. So I'm going to go with Jessica Rose Clark to get the finish or get the decision win pretty dominantly. In this next fight, this is going to be a fun one. We got Mowgli Benitez. He's going to be taking on David Onama. And David Onama, he was impressive in his debut, and it transferred over to the betting window for the second UFC appearance. He's the favorite in this fight, and he was undefeated at 8-0 when he signed with the UFC, and he was willing to take the risk, with his record on short notice, up a weight class. He took on another big-time prospect in Mason Jones, and he lost the fight, but he opened some eyes with his power, with his striking ability, and he's a young guy. He's 27. He's training out of Glory MMA, so that's a great camp. And it's going to be fun to see what he can do in the UFC. And especially in his natural weight class here at 145 pounds, he's going to have a full camp, so should have a better performance. And Onama is a very dangerous striker. He has fast hands. He has a long reach for the division. And very powerful. He switches stances. He has great balance. And he usually does a good job winning the foot positioning battle. Good jab. His overhand right is very powerful. He does a good job of, jab two or jab overhand. He'll mix it up a little bit. He will attack the body. Switches stances, so fighters, can't really get a great beat on what he's going to try to do. And they can't see which side the straight or the overhands are going to come from. And he has big-time speed in his hands. He has dangerous pocket punching because he's very tight with his punches and throws very, fast, sharp shots. He does not want to be a guy that you want to trade with. If you trade with Onama, to me, that's a mistake. And he likes to get in the Muay Thai clinch. He has nice knees. But he is hittable. I mean, there's not a lot of head movement. He tends to just explode in, so fighters can counter him. He is durable, and obviously he took a lot of damage in his last fight against Mason Jones and proved that he could give it and take it. And he beat up on Mason Jones on the feet too. But Mason Jones, in my opinion, striking-wise, is not nearly as good as Mowgli Benitez. Defensively, he's a little bit of a punching bag, so I think that gave a lot of people a false perception of truly how good Onama is on the feet, but I do think he's a pretty badass striker for sure, and he has 4 knockout wins. He's not a very good grappler. He's strong, he's explosive, which helps him get out of some bad positions, win some scrambles, but takedown defense needs work. If you watch his fight with Justin Overton, he got taken down multiple times in that fight. He was able to scramble and get on top eventually, and he did get a submission win there, but his fight with Mason Jones, he got dominated in the grappling, got taken down multiple times, and there was a lot of control time throughout that fight for Mason Jones. But, Onama, he's good at staying safe when he gets taken down. If fighters take his back, he's good at exploding in and getting on top, and he's not the best when he can get in top position. I feel like his submission defense isn't very good. He can get swept, he can get reversed, and he really just likes to sit in the full guard and try to control you. Isn't too dangerous, but he has good cardio, and I know he's going to be motivated after losing his UFC debut like that. And Mowgli Benitez, he's a guy that's a fun fighter to watch, man, and he's going to be a barn burner in there, and this is going to be his first fight of 2022. He was going to fight in January against TJ Brown, but he was forced to pull out of that fight 3 days before. I'm not really sure why he had to pull out, but it's been over a month, so hopefully if it was an injury, it's healed up and he's ready to go. And he's very experienced. I mean, Benitez has 3 more UFC fights than Onama has total fights in his career. And Benitez, he's been kind of middle of the pack guy throughout his tenure. He's 6-5 in the UFC, and recently he's lost 3 of his last 4 fights, so needs to get a win here. It's a fight that he needs to win to secure his job in the company. And, this is a fight that I think is going to be competitive because Mowgli is definitely the more technical striker. He's a southpaw. His 1-2s are really good. Even though his hands aren't the best, his 1-2s, like I said, are nice. That's what he likes to throw in terms of the hand combos. He'll throw kind of some check hooks, and he likes to counter with the hands. They're all right. And his kicks are nasty. He's pretty typical. He likes to look for the counter 2s as a southpaw and then throw those left kicks to the legs and the body, go up to the head sometimes. Going to be looking to use lateral movement kick and then walk Onama into the counter punches. And Onama is a fighter who's still wild. He's still young. So you could potentially walk Onama into something really big. Benitez isn't a guy that's going to go for takedowns, and I don't think Onama is necessarily going to go for takedowns in this fight either, so it should be a fun striking fight. Onama's a fighter who, in my opinion, throws better, tighter hand combos. He's more powerful, he's faster, he is less weathered, he has the reach advantage, the speed advantage, and he's pretty durable. I think Benitez is the better fighter, probably technically. He might land a lot of punches and a lot of shots, but I think it doesn't really matter. I think Onama is going to eventually get in the pocket. He's aggressive, he's powerful, and I think he's going to clip Benitez on the chin in exchange. I think Mowgli is not going to be able to take it. I wasn't really, Mowgli's last fight, I saw a lot of people were picking him to beat Billy Q, and I went the other way, went with Billy Q, and Billy Q dropped him. I feel like Onama is a lot more dangerous than that, and I think Onama could definitely hurt him as well. So I'm going to take Onama by knockout, actually, first, second round knockout here. Give me David Onama in this fight. And in the bantamweight division, we have a short notice matchup here. Mario Batista, he was expecting to fight Khalid Taha, but Taha pulled out, and now Batista is facing a UFC newcomer in Jay Perrin. And Batista so far in his UFC career is 2-2. He lost his debut to Corey Sandhagen, so obviously that's an excusable loss. And he was able to establish himself after that. He won 2 fights in a row. He beat Jinsu Sun. He beat Miles Johns. His knockout against Miles Johns was a big win because he came into that fight the underdog, and Johns had a lot of hype. He was undefeated. Bautista was able to knock him out there. Bautista did falter again in his last fight. He got knocked out by Trevin Jones. Hasn't fought since then. He was scheduled to fight Guido Canetti in August, but that fight never came to fruition. And Jay Perrin, while he's making his UFC debut here as a veteran, he's been around. He has primarily fought in the Northeast regional scene. He did really well in Cage Titans. He won the title there. Won the title in CES MMA. And Perrin also fought in Bellator twice, but he lost both bouts. He also fought in the Contender Series, and I felt he won the fight, but he lost a controversial decision there. Perrin has actually never won a fight outside of the Northeast, so maybe he does not travel the best, but hopefully he can show up on Saturday night and do well, because I do think Perrin is a pretty skillful guy. He's a grappler, and on the feet he has pretty good movement. He keeps his hands low and likes to kind of try to be evasive, bounce around, and then dart in with punches and bunches, close that gap, and try to get in on the body lock. He has good clinch control against the cage. He'll hold you there for the whole fight if he has to. I've seen him do that for 5 rounds against Johnny Campbell, who's a dangerous striker. And when he can get the fight to the ground, he is pretty dangerous with his jiu-jitsu. He has good back takes. His wrestling is pretty decent. He'll have good body locks. His double is alright. He'll try to get takedowns against the cage. And he is hittable, though, on the feet. He can struggle a little bit against guys that can stick and move. He can also kind of run into some knees, run into some uppercuts, trying to level change. And I feel like he's going to struggle a little bit with the footwork and the movement evasiveness of Batista himself. Even though Perrin's a guy that likes to move a lot and dart in and dart out, he doesn't really utilize the movement to create counter-punching opportunities. He utilizes the movement to make guys overextend and eventually get it on the takedown, or he uses it to, disguise when he's going to dart in, obviously, and then either land either one of those combos or get the fight to the mat. And with Batista, Mario Batista is a guy that has more UFC experience here, even though I feel like Jay Perrin kind of has similar level of experience because he has fought in title fights, he's fought in some big organizations. I don't think it's going to be a big deal for Perrin. He's already fought on the Contender Series in the same arena, so has some experience with that as well. And I do think Perrin is a little bit undervalued here because he has great cardio. That's another thing that's really good about Jay Perrin. He does not slow down. Even though he was taking this fight on short notice, he was getting ready to fight, I believe, like March 4th or something pretty close to that. So he was in a fight camp, and it was going to be a 5-round title fight, I believe. And Perrin is also super durable. I mean, the guy never been finished, very hard to knock out. So he's going to be there. He's going to be in your face for 15 minutes. He's going to be trying to find the opportunity to take you down. He's going to be using his movement, darting in, darting out, being pretty fast, evasive. So I feel like he's a good fighter, and he's young. He's 28. And I think that, Jay Perrin could make some noise in the UFC eventually, but Mario Batista, that's a tough guy to join the UFC against. I mean, Mario Batista is a guy that trains out of the MMA lab as well, so he has training partners that are getting ready for this fight with him. The camp has some momentum, so he's definitely riding a high. Batista's young in his own right, 28 years old. He's actually a little younger than Jay Perrin. And like I said, I think on the feet, Batista's a little bit better. He has better distance control. Even though they're both have a 69-inch reach, Batista's a little bit taller. I think he's a little bit longer in terms of the legs. I think he just fights a little longer. And, he does a good job of, using movement, landing some long strikes, staying evasive, and then eventually closing the gap and pulling guys into some big flying knees or things like that. And he was able to knock out Miles Johns with a flying knee. He has pretty good offensive and defensive wrestling. His cardio is good as well. He could push it. One thing about Batista that he does do is he has a tendency to like to brawl. And, he's hittable sometimes. He can close the gap and be a little bit reckless. And that's how a counterpuncher like Trevin Jones is able to tee him up and knock him out. But I don't think Jay Perrin necessarily is going to be too dangerous on the feet in terms of looking to counter and things like that, getting the knockout. I think Perrin is going to be looking to, when Batista overextends, get the body lock, maybe try to circle to the back and, get the grappling game going. But ultimately, I feel like Batista is going to be able to shut that down a little bit and land the better strikes on the feet. Perrin is a hittable guy, and I think Batista is going to be able to take advantage of that. He keeps a lot of volume out there. He can push a pace. He has good cardio as well. So I think Batista is going to be able to bounce back and get it done in this one. But in terms of the money line, I think Batista is a way too big of a favorite. I would line him almost like minus 155. So Perrin has some value there for sure, in my opinion. And I think Jay Perrin could get the win, but I'm going to go with Mario Batista to win by decision. And alright, this matchup I think is worse, so people might jump off the boat with me. But we got Jonathan Pearce taking on Christian Rodriguez. And I'm a big fan of this fight. I like this fight. We got Jonathan Pearce, who steadied himself and cemented himself as a UFC fighter at this point. He got up to a shaky start. He got dominated by Joe Lozon, ground and pounded in round 1, and looked like an amateur in there. But, man, anytime you're fighting Joe Lozon in Boston, you're usually going to have a bad night. But Pearce has won 2 fights in a row since then, getting 2 finishes as the underdog. So now he is getting the respect as the favorite coming into this fight, taking on a UFC debutant in Christian Rodriguez, who's 7-0, and he's finally getting the chance to shine on the UFC stage. He's a Rufus Sport fighter, and I've seen and heard a lot of people throughout the years name drop him and talk about him as a future superstar in their interviews and things like that. So definitely has been getting the support and has been around that gym for a long time. And he has not fought the best names, but he did do well in the Contender Series. He defeated Junior Cortez, the brother of Tracy Cortez. His last fight was a month ago, so he has been active, and he was expecting to fight a 13-4 opponent, and then he had another opponent that had a slightly better record. But both those guys pulled out, and he ended up fighting a guy who was 19-36, so you can't take much out of that fight, but he won via knockout, or I believe finish in the first minute. I can't remember if it was a knockout or submission. Rodriguez has only fought 2 opponents with more than 10 fights, so that's another thing that you kind of have to look at when you look at this fight. He's not super experienced, but this is an excellent fight. We have a fighter who's a young, super slick, technical prospect, and we got a vet who's an absolute dog. So Christian Rodriguez, one thing about this fight, he's going to be a little bit small in there. I mean, he's 5'7". Jonathan Pearce is 6 foot. He's competed at bantamweight in the past, but Christian Rodriguez in the stand-up is really good. He has great footwork. He's very fast. His distance control is really good. Throws really excellent combinations, really nice 1-2s. He'll rip the body, come back to the head, mixes in kicks, mixes in knees into his combinations. He'll pull counter guys really effectively. He has really good defense as well, really good high guard. It's hard to back him up and corral him against the fence. And he can fight moving backwards or going forwards, which is something that could really play to his benefit in this fight. He gets his confidence and timing and then really starts to put it on guys. Once he can get his timing on the counter, I feel like he starts to think, okay, I can get my timing on the front foot. He starts to come forward, feint a lot, get guys to throw, and then start to counter with combinations. And when he puts those combinations together, he's really dangerous. He's not necessarily a powerful guy, but very slick, and he can kind of just keep you at bay all night. He isn't a big grappler, but he will try to catch kicks, get takedowns. He has pretty good reactive takedowns. And when he gets on top, he has good control. He isn't a big submission threat, but he has a couple rear naked choke victories. In this fight and in most of Rodriguez's fights, I imagine going forward, he's going to have to deal with guys trying to take him down. And Rodriguez has really good takedown defense. And if fighters do take him down, he's very hard to hold down. Really good cardio. He did, as an amateur, lose a couple fights where he was taken down and kind of dominated in the grappling realm. So against Jonathan Pearce, hopefully that's not something that rears its head again. But he has really technical get-ups against the cage. He does a really good job of getting out of the clinch, and he's just, in my opinion, super technical. His cardio is really good, like I said, and he's definitely not getting an easy fight in the UFC, though. He's fighting a guy who's confident, comfortable, fighting at a great camp at Fight Ready MMA, 2 straight finishes, And Jonathan Pearce is a warrior, man. His striking is improving, but still reckless. He's very durable, and he just comes forward, takes shots to give shots, walks fighters down, looks to weaponize his cardio. And he wants to get on the inside, work big hooks, big uppercuts. His dirty boxing is pretty good. He's really good in the clinch, and he'll try to use like stutter step or switch stance blitzes. He'll close the gap with big hooks, and he tries to keep a lot of volume out there and really just gas guys out. He has decent takedowns, and he's improved his timing on his level changes. Singles and doubles are alright. His body lock is pretty good. Looks good in the clinch, and he will chain wrestle. He's aggressive on top. He has good passing ability, and he will throw big ground and pound, and he's been able to finish guys from the back mount by flattening them out and either getting the submission or pounding them out with punches. Good job of flowing between the full mount and the back mount, gassing guys out and then finishing them. And if fighters get back to their feet or get on top, he's good at, being able to immediately try to get them back down again and demoralize them, or reversing it back on top, and does a fairly good job of that. But he can give up position at times, and I don't think his top control is necessarily the most elite, but he has the ability to just get guys tired, and once they're tired, that's when he can dominate them on the ground. Pearce finished his last two opponents from the back mount, and he finished his fight on the Contender Series with the ground and pound as well. In terms of who win this matchup, I mean, I have to edge it to Rodriguez. I like JSP. I cashed on him as the underdog in his last fight, but I think Christian Rodriguez has a chance to be something special. He's super technical. I really like his composure. I like his cardio. I don't know if Rodriguez has fought someone who has the same aggression or intensity level of JSP, but on the feet, I think Rodriguez, his footwork, his speed, his movement, his ability to pot shot, walk JSP into shots, and put damage on him is going to be able to be effective. JSP may be able to get a takedown or two, but I don't think he's going to be able to hold down Rodriguez, and I don't think Rodriguez is going to get tired. JSP is super durable, tough to get out of there, so I see Rodriguez winning by decision. Pearce has more UFC experience, and he's also fought better opponents, so I think the line should be closer, but I do agree with Jonathan Pearce being the favorite. But I think there's some value on Rodriguez. Could he, come in here against a bigger guy, a guy that's a little bit older than him, and get big brothered and kind of not be ready for the pace and the, ability that Pearce has? Yes, but technically I think that Rodriguez has a lot of skills, and I think that he's going to be ready for this spot. So I'm going to go with Christian Rodriguez in a big upset here. And up next here, we got two guys that I think are kind of a little bit of glass cannons, but we got Abdul Razak Alhassan and Joaquim Buckley. This fight should be pretty awesome. We got two guys that just go in there and go for the knockout, man. I mean, I think Buckley, he is a little bit more well-rounded in terms of he can mix in some wrestling at times. And in this fight, that would be super smart to do. Go in there and just wrestle for 3 rounds, get the fight to the ground, and win that way. I think that's Buckley's path to least resistance. If he can, get the wrestling going early, then it's going to open up opportunities for him on the feet as well and make Razak less dangerous. But we've seen Buckley, he is a guy that is a little bit weak-chinned. He has been knocked out a few times, and if you can touch him on the button, he will go out. His defense isn't the best, and Abdul Razak is a guy that is unforgiving. All 11 of his finishes have came in the first round. They're all knockouts, and if he touches Buckley clean, he's going to put him out cold. Abdul Razak had that 3-fight losing streak after returning from that long layoff and looked like he was maybe on the way out, but moved up to middleweight and lost to Jacob Malkoun, but then he had a nasty knockout over Alessio Di Chirico with a head kick. And man, I mean, it looked like he kind of had his mojo back, had his confidence back, and that's a big thing for a guy that fights like Abdul Razak does, like a bat out of hell right out the start. This fight, it's kind of hard for me to pick because Buckley, he has been training with Dale Brown. He's been training with the Detroit police officer, self-defense guy. So, I mean, he might kill Abdul Razak. I'm kind of worried about that. I feel like the UFC might pull this fight from the card because of that after they see some of the techniques that he's learned from that guy. But, no, man, I mean, I don't know. I mean, this fight, I don't really have a great read on it. Like I said, I think Buckley, if he goes in there with a good game plan, he's smart and he wrestles, he could get the win. But I think that Abdul Razak got his confidence back in his last fight. I think he's a very explosive, dangerous guy, and I kind of just feel like he's going to catch that first round knockout. So not too much confidence in this pick. Don't really have a lot of interest in it from a betting perspective, but going to just pick the underdog here in Abdul Razak Alhassan to get the first round knockout. And up next here, we got a really interesting fight. We got the first fight on the main card, and it's Jim Miller coming back, making his return again, taking on Nikolas Motta. And man, I feel like I say this every time, or probably everyone says this every time Jim Miller fights, but fuck, man, I mean, think of how crazy this shit is, man. I mean, the guy has fought 38 times in the UFC. I mean, fighting 40 times at all is freaking crazy, but this guy is, after this fight, he'll be one fight away from fighting 40 times in the UFC alone. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, you got to give him a ton of props for that. He's a beast. I mean, obviously, at this point in his career, he's never going to be that high level. He'll probably never get ranked again. But, fuck, man. I mean, the guy who used to be ranked at one point, he was top 3 in the world. He was, I believe, went on an 8-9 fight winning streak in the UFC, had a really stellar record in the UFC, and he still does. I mean, the guy is 22-15-1 in the UFC. I mean, if you have 7 more wins than you have losses and you have almost 40 fights, that's pretty good. I mean, the guy's 38 years old, and he's still doing the damn thing. His last fight, he went and got a knockout, and that fight, he did get rocked in the first round and looked a little bit bad off the start, but eventually got his bearings and got the job done there. But his opponent here, Nikolas Motta, he has a lot stacked against him heading into his UFC debut. I mean, he's fighting the guy with the most fights in the history of the UFC. He's a 38-fight deficit in terms of UFC experience, but he's also not been active. He hasn't fought since November of 2020. He's suffered injuries, and then the fight, this fight was actually a rebooking of a fight that was supposed to happen a few months ago. Miller got COVID, and oddly enough, Jim Miller was able to get rebooked after that. He actually fought October 16th, 2021. He got the 22nd victory of his UFC career, knocking out Eric Gonzalez with the overhand left. But, that was only the first fight that Jim Miller won that went out of the first round since 2016. So that's something you have to think about. But for something that's weird, is his opponent, Nikolas Motta, did not get booked again. So I'm not really sure why he didn't get booked in between that point, but he's getting this matchup here with Jim Miller that he had before. And, Jim Miller, obviously in recent years he's been very much first round or bust, but he's still only lost to veterans or legit UFC guys. I mean, you look at the people that he's taken out, guys like Alex White, Jason Gonzalez, Roosevelt Roberts, Eric Gonzalez. You'd say those guys probably aren't UFC level, but then when you see the guys that he's losing to, he's losing to guys like Scott Holtzman. He's losing to guys like Joe Solecki. He's losing to fighters like Vince Bichelle. He's losing to Charles do Bronx Oliveira. But honestly, I mean, I'm being honest with this one. If you look at his record, if you look at all the guys that Jim Miller has lost to, I mean, we could just take a look at it ourselves here. Almost every person that Jim Miller loses to, man, is like a legend in the game, man. Like Frankie Edgar, UFC champ, right? Gray Maynard, UFC title challenger, went to a draw, UFC title fight, definitely a legend there. Benson Henderson, UFC champ. Nate Diaz, UFC title challenger, legend of fighter. He lost to Donald Cerrone, legend. Neil Dariush, Chiesa, Diego Sanchez, Poirier, Pettis, Francisco Trinaldo, very good fighter. Dan Hooker, Du Bronx, Scott Holtzman, Bichelle, Joe Solecki. I mean, these three, I guess you could start to say, hey, these guys aren't necessarily the highest level anymore. But, most of his losses came against the cream of the crop, and he's definitely seen, ton more than Nikolas Motta has seen throughout his career. And it's definitely a task for a guy like Nikolas Motta to buck the trend and get the job done when you see all these guys that I just named, like the Roosevelt Roberts and the Alex Whites that couldn't get past Jim Miller being young, explosive, dangerous guys. But Nikolas Motta, he has good knockout power, 12-3. He trains out of Factory X, and he's on a 3-fight winning streak. He won on the Contender Series in his last fight. He's been a pro since 2012, so he has a lot of experience in terms of that. Hasn't really fought great opponents. The first 9 victories of his career came against mediocre guys, and then recently he did beat Joe Solecki by knockout. He beat Cesar Balmaceda by knockout. He beat Juan Gonzalez to win the CFFC world title, and then he was able to beat Joseph Lowry. And Motta, he has been finishing all of his losses. He's been knocked out twice. He got submitted on the Ultimate Fighter against Glyco Francia, and he did get submitted once as a pro on his real record as well. The skill set for Motta, he's a counter striker. He is very, athletic. He's very fast, and he has big power. And he likes to kind of move around, wait for guys to throw at him, and he'll explode in with his really good punch combinations. He'll go body head. He has really good kicks. He will go jab, high kick, and his high kick is a very dangerous weapon of his. I've seen him drop multiple fighters with that. He'll try to counter with the straight right hand or the check left hook. Has power in both hands, and he can knock you out unconscious with both hands, drop you. I've seen him, drop a lot of guys, put him down, and he's fought a lot of tough guys that have been able to get dropped and come back and get back to their feet. So he's proven that he can drop you again, and still, continue to keep that power, keep his composure, stay in the fight, and win a decision even if he has to. He's super tough and willing to throw down. Sometimes he can brawl, and that could cost him here in this fight. Jim Miller, one of the things that Jim Miller is, legendary for is the guy is extremely durable. I think he's only been knocked out twice, and they were both knees to the head, I believe. And he also is just a guy that is really good in brawls. He can kind of stick in there and land big shots. And if he can land on Nikolas Motta, I've seen Nikolas Motta knocked out before. And, Motta just has to be a little bit careful, a little bit smarter with the brawling. Just try to counter more and be just a little bit smarter with this approach here in this fight. But Motta, his takedown defense is pretty good. I feel like he has, pretty good ability to defend takedowns, especially against a cage. His get-up game is fairly good, and he actually has been trading with some good teams. Like I've seen him traded as well with Mark Henry in the past. He's traded at Factory X. He's traded multiple gyms where he's going to get some good grappling looks and things like that. And I've seen him be able to, stand up from under good wrestlers. I've seen him stand up from under Glyco Francia a few times, defend quite a few of Francia's takedowns, and make him really work for it. And Jim Miller, at this point in his career, he may go for a few takedowns early. He may try to catch one of those high kicks or leg kicks or body kicks that Motta throws and put him on his back. But he's not going to have an approach where he's going to come in and try to wrestle hard for 3 rounds. He's going to be trying to conserve his energy as well in there. And Motta knows that, so I think Motta is going to try to, just be really sharp. If he can defend the few initial takedowns early, he'll probably start to get a little bit more aggressive and start to pressure more, use his feints, try to draw out Miller and try to get the knockout. But Jim Miller, he's a guy that, like I said, he's seen it all, he's done it all. Very well-rounded guy. He's southpaw, and his striking is still fairly good. He likes to be aggressive. Like I said, he likes to kind of just come forward and try to get into brawls, but he has a good straight left hand. He does a good job with his low kicks. He'll chop you down, and he's very durable. He'll stay in your face and kind of try to, catch you on the counter and land that big shot that hurts you or makes you want to shoot. And then he's a very opportunistic submission guy. Obviously, he has a ton of submissions. He gets a lot of first-round finishes. Most of his wins in recent years have all been first-round finishes, so he comes out really hot early, and then he does have a tendency to slow way down, get really tired. He's had a lot of issues with guys that can not necessarily out-grapple him, but just get him tired and put him on his back and hold him down, and just Miller kind of lets the clock run out and doesn't really have enough to get back up to his feet and make it the fight that he needs it to be. This fight is not necessarily going to be that. I think he could be more freewheeling on the feet, let his kicks go a little bit more, probably be a little bit more aggressive with the striking, because I don't think Motta is going to have that, want to take him down, or probably the ability to take him down and hold him down. And Miller, obviously, if he can get on top at any point in this fight, that's going to be his best position, and he could potentially win the fight that way. On the feet in his last fight, he, eventually did find his rhythm and caught that big straight left, knocked out Eric Gonzalez. And towards the end of the first round. And really throughout the whole fight, you could tell that Miller was the better striker, but he did get clipped at certain points of the fight. He got rocked, dropped, almost finished, and against a good counter striker like Motta, I didn't really like to see that. Even though Miller has notoriously been super durable throughout his career, he, did get dropped against Charles Oliveira in his fight where he got finished by submission. Like I said, his last fight he got dropped, and I feel like potentially a guy like Motta could get a knockout in there. That would be a big feather in Motta's cap. I did look at that knockout price, the line, and the line is, I would never bet that. I was hoping there would be a lot more value on that. Looking at Miller's career, it's not like the guy gets knocked out very often, but I'm actually going to pick Motta, and I think he's going to win a decision here. But I wouldn't be surprised either if he gets a second or third round knockout in this fight. But Jim Miller, he's such a veteran, and man, it's tough to just lay money on a guy like Nikolas Motta in a spot like this when someone else has so much experience over him. So I think it's a really interesting fight. I think both guys could get the job done, but I'm going to go with the younger, I think hungrier Nikolas Motta. This next fight, this should be fun. Anytime you have two heavyweights in there, it's interesting, but this fight should be a good clash of styles. Parker Porter, he's on a 2-fight UFC win streak and the big favorite coming into this spot. Porter, he got knocked out by Chris Daukaus in his UFC debut, but his last 2 fights, he won decisions against Josh Parisian and Chase Sherman. And Baudot, on the other hand, has lost his first 2 UFC fights. He was finished by strikes in both fights. To be fair, Baudot's last fight was changed to a no contest due to Nascimento testing positive for banned substances. But his UFC debut was also a tough one where he was finished by Tom Aspinall, who's a rising star, obviously. And I'm seeing a lot of people that have strong opinions on this fight on one side or the other. There's the camp that think Parker Porter is a lock, he's going to dominate him. And then there's the camp that think, Baudot is huge value at plus 200. But to me, Baudot is a hard guy to trust because really, in my opinion, he's not won a fight since May of 2018. If you look at his record, he does have the win over Todd Stout in 2019, but he was TKO'd in that, or he actually was submitted in that fight, and the fight was later reversed to a DQ win for him. He also was knocked out in his last fight, but it got changed to a no contest. So even though he has only 1 loss in his last 5 fights, technically, he has lost 3 in a row in my eyes. And all of Baudot's legitimate pro victories came against Asian fighters with bad records. I do think Baudot is a bit underrated. Even having said that, he trains at the MMA Factory, who obviously has a coach that can produce top-end heavyweights. He's done it already with Cyril and Francis, and he's one of the main training partners for Cyril currently. And you could see it in his style. For a heavyweight, Baudot is very quick and agile. He has good technical striking. He throws a lot of spinning attacks, and you normally wouldn't see that from a big man, but he is a pretty good mover. He's taller, longer, and when he's fresh early, he's going to be a lot faster than Parker Porter. He does a good job of, using his jab, and he has pretty good hooks, good straight punch. He has decent combinations as well. So I feel like Baudot is a fairly good striker, especially when he's early on in a fight, but he needs to be more composed. If you watch his last fight against Rodrigo Nascimento, he was lighting him up early, but he let off a ton of volume, and he needs to be more relaxed, keep a slower pace, and he needs to, keep a pace he can keep for the whole fight. He is a skilled striker, though, like I said, but he has bad cardio, and if you take his shots, pressure him, push him back, tends to fold. That's exactly what happened in his fight with Nascimento. He is dangerous on the inside, though. He has really good elbows, nice spinning elbows. His balance is pretty good. He has good judo. He'll attack with knees in the clinch, and he's fairly hard to take down. He does get tired and sloppy, and I've seen him kind of pull guys on top of him, going for takedowns and things like that, and he's very bad off of his back. He's been finished a few times there, TKO'd and submitted. He just kind of will give up when he gets taken down, it seems like. But, he is good when he can get on top, either drop a guy or, hit one of his trips or throws in the clinch and get on top. He has good ground and pound, but his top control is not really there. He really shouldn't try to grapple with Parker Porter. And Parker Porter, he has a good style for a heavyweight. He, is going to struggle at the high end because he's not a great athlete, but he maximizes his abilities. He's a good boxer. He's tough. He's durable. He comes in shape. He weaponizes his pace, and he has a black belt in jiu-jitsu, but he doesn't really have the wrestling to get it to the ground against most guys. But Porter, he tries to keep that constant forward pressure, throw punches and bunches, and be the superior, sharper boxer with the faster hands. And his pressure in this fight is going to be key. He has to be able to keep that pressure, stay a little bit more defensively sound, and try to avoid getting finished early against Baudot, who's super dangerous. But Porter, I will say, defensively is not really that good. I mean, he holds his hands way too low for my liking. Tries to use a lot of head movement, and I feel like he doesn't really have the type of speed to warrant that type of game plan, especially against a guy that's going to be faster, longer than him, and that's going to potentially be a downfall for him if he gets finished early in the fight. We saw him against Chris Daukaus. I feel like a guy that's faster, more mobile than the last two opponents that he's faced. He wasn't as willing to pressure forward. He was more sitting on the outside and being kind of, unwilling to try to close the distance and get countered, and kind of wanted to keep his energy, it seemed like. But, I feel like Porter does obviously have a big cardio advantage and a big advantage if it goes to the ground. He just has to be really careful in that early moments of the first round. And Baudot, this is going to be a fight IQ fight for him, because I think if he comes in here and fights composed, picks his shots, and just plays it smart, I think he's going to dominate, man, against Parker Porter. And a lot of people are saying Porter is a lock and things like that, but, man, I don't agree with that. I think Porter, he overextends a lot of his punches, really bad defensively. He's kind of a bad knockout, again, waiting to happen, like he got knocked out against Chris Daukaus. He is durable, I'll give him that. I mean, he could take some big shots, and he keeps coming forward. He's a tough dude, but, you don't want to get clipped on the chin too much at heavyweight. And, Porter, if he can kind of survive a bad moment and get into those later rounds, I think that he could start to take over the fight and probably finish it. But if he can't do that, I don't really see him having much success. I mean, I think that if Baudot fights smart, I don't think Porter will have a lot of success in this fight. I don't think that either. Personally, I don't really see Parker Porter being able to get the takedown. He doesn't have good wrestling. I mean, you'll go for the single leg, but his entries are so slow. I feel like Baudot actually is the more explosive, better wrestler. If Baudot gets put on his back, I mean, you'll probably get finished. And it really is tough to trust a guy like Alain Baudot just solely because of the level of wins he has, some of the performances he's had when he's taken level of up or steps up in competition. But ultimately, I think he's the better fighter here, and I'm going to roll the dice and pick Alain Baudot here to get the win. So I'm going to go with Alain Baudot, going to go with the MMA Factory, and going to go with the superior striking here. I'm going to say Baudot gets the first round knockout. And in this next fight, we got a bit of a mismatch here, in my opinion, and I'm scared to kind of go completely against Jamie Pickett again, because he kind of made me look silly in his last fight, where I was kind of confident that Joseph Holmes was going to get the win. But in retrospect, that was kind of just a bad read, in my opinion, because Holmes had no experience, and Pickett, just there was a lot of different things with that fight. With this fight with Kyle Daukaus, I mean, I think Daukaus has the higher level experience. I think, he's been a former champion in other organizations. He, in my opinion, has the better striking, the better grappling. He's taller than Pickett, and even though he's not quite as explosive and athletic, I think his pressure, his body kicks, and his striking is going to be able to back up Pickett, who's already a little bit of a timid guy. I think the grappling, Daukaus is live to get a submission victory here. Pickett has been submitted a couple times in his career. Daukaus hasn't gotten a finish in the UFC or gotten a submission yet, so I'm sure he's really going to be hunting to try to get a finish against a guy that he probably feels he has an advantage over. If you look at, the last couple of opponents that Daukaus has been in there with, guys like, Kevin Holland, guys like Phil Haas, Brendan Allen, I feel like those guys are high-level guys, fairly high level, and Jamie Pickett is a step down in comparison to those fighters. I think Pickett obviously poses some threats with his blitzes. He, maybe could land a big shot and hurt Daukaus, but Daukaus has proven to be very durable, and I just don't really see him being denied here. I think he's going to be able to pressure, land some big body kicks, back up Jamie to the cage, eventually take him down. And I actually do see him getting his first finish, first submission in the UFC. So give me Kyle Daukaus via some sort of front choke, either anaconda, guillotine, Dars. I think he's gonna get him in a choke and choke him out. And then we got the main event here. Finally, we got Johnny Walker. He's gonna be taking on Jamahal Hill. And this is a fun fight because it's an interesting fight in terms of the trajectory of both these guys' career. Even though Johnny Walker is the younger guy here, Jamahal Hill is the one with all the hype, the one that a lot of people are projecting going forward as a potential future UFC title challenger, potential future UFC champion. And I've been saying that for a while, man. I'm not going to jump off the Jamahal Hill train now. I mean, I've been a big fan of the guy. He lost to Paul Craig, and a lot of people, man, I mean, almost everyone I saw was shitting on the guy, saying Jimmy Crute was going to take him down at ease and, beat the brakes off him. But, I had to stay loyal to my boy Jamahal Hill, and, yeah, man, he rewarded us with the, catching of the bed and the easy knockout. He was able to go out there and just destroy Jimmy Crute and kind of proved to everyone, hey, I'm still here. But Johnny Walker, on the other hand, he's a guy that at one point had the same type of hype as Jamahal Hill. He had the wild knockouts, and he probably had even more hype than Jamahal Hill, but Corey Anderson kind of put him in his place. Then he had the bad fight again against Nikita Krylov where he dropped the decision. Then his last match against Thiago Santos was 5-round snooze fest where neither guy did much, but Thiago was able to take it on the scorecards against Johnny Walker. And Walker, since going to SBG, it seems like he's trying to fight a little bit of a different game, and I don't necessarily think it's the smartest thing to do because I think that Walker, he's not the most technical guy. He doesn't have the best chin. He doesn't have great cardio. The wowness and the amazingness in a guy like Johnny Walker is the guy is fucking 6'6", 82-inch reach, and he can move like a cat when he's fresh early, jump around, and he could catch you with some super dynamic shit and knock you out. He needs to go back to that style. That's the way that he's going to beat guys at the upper elite level of the division. He's never... this is in my opinion. he has the ability physically. Obviously he's a great athlete. He's still 29 years old. If he goes in the gym and really works on his technique and, becomes way more technical with his defense and with his striking, he has the ability to, become a champion or a high-level guy. But I think now what he has that flashiness where he could potentially beat anyone in the division with it, but he's not going to have sustained success. He just can't say, oh, I'm going to fight technical to try to have some sustained success if he does not have all the skills down yet. And if he tries to do that against Jamahal Hill, who's another tall, rangy guy with big knockout power, that's good on the inside with elbows, with knees, good on the outside with his boxing, really good pressure, his cardio is elite. I think that's going to be a rough go for him if he tries to stay technical against a guy like Jamal Sweet Dreams Hill. I just think Jamahal Hill has some of the best boxing at the 205 division. I think that he has really good front kicks, really good just ability to stay calm. He has really good eyes, so he can kind of slip and rip, and I feel like he's just much better than Johnny Walker. He's more durable. He hasn't been knocked out as much, and Walker's taken some bad knockouts at this stage in his career. He's a little bit chinny, but Walker always has that X factor to get the knockout, and I hope he goes out there and goes for it, unlike his last fight, because I think if he sits back again, I think Hill's just going to pick him apart and eventually take him out of there. Jamahal Hill is not Thiago Santos, where Santos was coming off a losing streak, needed the win, fought a little bit tentative. It was the Brazil versus Brazil thing as well. With Jamahal Hill, he's going in there to knock him out, take his head off, and should, maybe raise Johnny Walker's intensity level as well. But just if he comes out fighting like that, I think he's going to get finished, unlike his last fight. So this fight, I feel like, in my opinion, I was way more confident in Jamahal Hill beating Jimmy Crute than I am in Johnny Walker, because I think Johnny Walker is just that type of dynamic type of guy. But at the end of the day, man, I feel like I'm going to go with the technicality advantage here with Jamahal Hill. I think that he's, the superior striker in this contest. I don't think either guy's going to go for the takedowns, and I just feel like Jamahal Hill is riding the wave of momentum here. He's a way too big of a favorite in my opinion. Minus 260 is a little bit much, but I think he's going to find that chin and knock out Walker here in the first round. I think it'll be a pretty explosive fight, but I'm going to go with Jamahal Hill can always, back sweet dreams here. I'm a fan of the guy, and I think that, he has the goods to move up the rankings. So I'm going to go with Jamahal Hill here, and we'll see where he goes from there. But definitely not counting out Johnny Walker. I think this is an interesting main event for what it is. So there you have it. That's my full card breakdown for UFC Vegas 48, UFC Fight Night, Walker versus Hill. As far as my most confident pick on the card, it's going to be Kyle Daukaus. And for the parlay of the week, I'm going to go with Kyle Daukaus and Jessica Rose Clark. So thanks for watching, guys. Like I said earlier in the video, hit the like button. Let's try to get this to 200 likes. If you want to get some content for Bellator this week, the Bellator video. If you want to get some content for Eagle FC, things like that. Knuckle Mania, we got Mike Perry and Julian Lane going the fuck at it. That should be dope. So, yeah, man, if you want to check out some content over there, go to patreon.com/MAPredictionGuru. But thanks for watching. I'm out.